here, and House Speaker Mike Johnson is proving he is actually really good at one thing, kicking that can down the road. Congress now has another week to avoid a partial government shutdown, but none of this is normal, and we cannot say that enough. If Congress was actually functioning like it should, this would have been a done deal back in September. So joining us now to discuss this and all of the things happening with the government is Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg.
Secretary Buttigieg, welcome to the program. You are still in Washington, D.C. Your colleagues on Capitol Hill, most of them have gone home. There was a chance they were going to be here this weekend figuring out if they could continue to fund the government. They have kicked the can down the road. They bought themselves about a week. Can you just give us a sense from your vantage point of what is at stake with the government operating this way, with congressional Republicans continuing to sort of push the can, not really agree to a permanent solution?
Well, let me give you one example that comes from just one part of one department, the FAA's air traffic organization within the Department of Transportation. Think about what it takes every day, 24/7 by 365, to make sure that 16 million flights a year get to where they are going safely. And then think about the effect it has on those operations to be now on our fourth, maybe fifth, depending how you count time this fiscal year alone, figuring out whether we're bracing for a shutdown. You know, one thing it feels like everybody that I talk to on Capitol Hill agrees on, Republicans or Democrats, is we need more air traffic controllers. And you know what happens during a shutdown? On day one, we have to shut down the academy that trains them, which will stop us in our tracks at a moment when we are finally, after 20 or 30 years of decline, finally seeing the number of controllers we have go up. Meanwhile, the controllers who would be required to continue going to work in the towers would not be getting paid. And I don't know about you, but I want the controller who is controlling my flight to have nothing else distracting them but the ability to do their job. They're going to keep doing their job. They're pros, but they shouldn't even have to worry about this. And neither should leaders in any of the federal agencies responsible for so many vital things, from food inspections to air traffic control. The last thing they should be wondering about when they get up in the morning is, do we have a budget? Do I have a paycheck?
Mr. Secretary, I want to talk about budgets. The interesting news about the Biden administration is the amount of work that's gone into changing the game for the states around the country, whether it was infrastructure, whether it was on dealing with the slowdown in the economy. The administration has laid out $9.9 billion in public transportation funding for the states. The funding is there to help communities maintain and operate trains, buses, ferries, upgrades their stations. In my neighborhood, the new Carrollton station. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. Very much appreciated. Because that station was going to close down a few years ago. And the Biden administration, because Joe Biden and I used to ride the train together, we appreciate trains and what that means. How do you, because you are a consummate, not just advocate, but storyteller of what this administration has done, how come that just hasn't connected with folks out there who, in polling today, says, oh, Joe Biden hasn't done enough or hasn't done anything for us. I don't know what this administration's done for the last 3 years. I'm voting for Trump, right. Who did nothing for you in transportation for 4 years.
Yeah, in fact, the previous administration promised a big transportation bill. I have to admit, it's the one time they had me fooled. I actually thought they were going to do it, because why wouldn't you? Right. And they didn't get it done. President Biden did. He did it on a bipartisan basis, by the way, and now we're getting these dollars out to states, cities, communities, transit agencies, airports. Here's the thing. When something is uncontroversially and unambiguously good, it gets less attention. But that just means we have our work cut out for us. I'm not accepting that as a reason why these things are going to get less attention. I know with a lot of turmoil and a lot of controversy in the world, we need to make sure people understand the good that is coming their way because of the president's leadership and because of their work. It's why I'm going to be on the road even more. You're going to see the president continuing to be on the road. And look, we've also got to work with partners on the ground to make sure that their residents connect the dots. Now, obviously, some governors are going to be more likely than others to share credit with the president. A few others, yeah. But all of them are taking the money.
Yeah,
all of them are spending
always take the money.
And all of that money is helping people get to where they need to be.
Right.
I mean, the getting to people where they need to be, transportation is something that affects everyone's life. Whether you drive, whether you ride the bus, whether you take the train, whether you ride the plane. And to your point about, I wrote that down about when something is unambiguous unambiguously good, it gets less attention. And so many of the things that I think the administration has done, they do affect people's everyday lives, but they don't necessarily connect the two, right? They see $9.9 billion, but they don't connect it to the new Carrollton station in D.C. or the train or the transformation coming to trains in North Carolina or Illinois. Another unambiguously good thing that happened this week is the change in policy on wheelchairs and airlines. People they might realize it now that we say it, but airlines were exempt from the Americans with Disability Act when it comes to how accommodations. I have never seen anyone on a plane in a wheelchair.
That's right. Look, I think everybody gets that aviation is a unique and complex and technical field, but it is also the case that so much more could be done to make it possible, safe, easier, and dignified for people who use wheelchairs to travel by air. And when they can't, when somebody can't travel by air, and one person told us during the process we were developing these rules, said, I was made to feel like a piece of luggage, so I don't fly anymore. Every time that happens, their world shrinks, but also our world shrinks because we miss out on the contributions of that would-be passenger wherever they're going, whether it's a family wedding or whether it's a board meeting. So what we're doing is we are proposing an update to the rules to make it clear, for example, that if you're traveling with a wheelchair and you hand it to airline personnel when you get on the plane and they destroy your wheelchair, that is a de facto, that is a per se violation of the Air Carrier Access Act, and they can be held accountable for that.
This matters. 862 wheelchairs were destroyed last year. So it's not like it doesn't happen.
And we only have those numbers because we started requiring them to report, and that count might be low. Anybody that you know with a wheelchair probably has a horror story about flying if they fly at all. So we're requiring training. We're requiring a standard of safe and dignified access to aircraft because often personnel are not just handling wheelchairs. They are physically lifting passengers into their seats. They need to be properly trained. Getting this right is not just a way to hold airlines accountable to do the right thing for passengers, but it's opening up new possibilities for those passengers. And again, everybody who would benefit from them being there. I'm an extraordinary disability advocate in my office just the other day. Her name is Grace Fisher. She through an illness, lost the use of her arms and legs. She does extraordinary paintings with her mouth. She was able to participate in an award. She was being recognized at the Kennedy Center this weekend, was able to do it, but flying for her was no simple thing. We want to make it easier.
Go ahead, Alicia. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to shift gears, Secretary, and ask you to put on your dad hat for just a second, because we've been following the story, the Alabama Supreme Court's IVF personhood ruling. I'm sure you saw this week in the U.S. Senate, you had a Republican blocking legislation that would have protected IVF. And while you built your family through adoption, I don't think we have enough men in this conversation talking about some of the most personal and most important conversations that we have as families about how we build and grow our own families. And so I wonder for you, as you're watching this all unfold, what more you think the federal government can be doing to protect American families?
I think you're right. I think everybody who believes in family ought to be speaking out here. This is a women's issue. It is a family issue. It is a father's issue, too. When this kind of ideology and the actions of the last administration and the congressional Republicans and the Supreme Court they created end the right to IVF, that is stopping men from becoming fathers along with stopping women from becoming mothers. And it's preventing something that all of us, including folks on the other side of the aisle, profess to believe in, which is helping people grow their families. Unfortunately, we see far too many voices out there who say they're pro-family on a brochure. But when it comes down to protecting and supporting families, whether it's a family that's trying to grow their family through IVF or one like mine, where Chasten and I, through adoption, have our incredible twin son and daughter, you need to demonstrate whether you actually mean it. And the fact that Senator Duckworth put forward a bill that really gave anybody who said, oh, we're not against IVF, a chance to prove it, and Senate Republicans are blocking it. So, look, we know where they stand, and I think it really tells you something that the people with this position refuse to own their own position. I think that's an indication that it's not a very good one.
As an adopted child, I appreciate that effort by you and your husband. I want to broaden it out a little bit. further in talking about what lies ahead on a number of fronts that touch on families and communities and how they make their lives and livelihoods happen. For example, we have, to the points that Alicia raised, you have a lot of women out there now having to cross borders to seek medical attention for themselves and their families. Transportation is involved in that, the criminalization potentially of those crossings. What involvement does Department of Transportation have in coordination with the administration, in coordination with a broader public policy around making sure that women, men, families have access? They can go from state to state or community to community to get what they need as they're making very sometimes difficult health care decisions.
When the Supreme Court dismantled Roe versus Wade, the president directed the entire government to take a whole-of-government approach, make sure every part of his administration was working together to support and defend these rights. And yes, we have a role to play. We are assessing the transportation implications of states and other authorities trying to block people from being able to move. To be clear, they shouldn't have to.
Right.
In order to access something like IVF
right.
Or in order to have life-saving medical care, you shouldn't have to leave the state that you live in the United States of America. But if there are obstacles being put up, we're going to do everything we can within the boundaries of the law and according to our authorities to make sure that we support them. But again, we shouldn't be here in the first place. And it's one of the reasons why President Biden has continued to lead not just this administration process, but work with congressional partners. Because, look, they're not going to stop as far as they've come. Alabama was the first place where IVF was put on the line. It's not going to be the last.
Right.
And we're going to see more and more of these extreme measures. And by the way, there are proposals circulating to have some of these extreme things take place at the national level, whether we're talking about a national ban on access to abortion or things that would stand in the way of IVF. I mean, look, the Speaker of the House, I think if he had his way, we wouldn't have access to birth control.
All right. Yes. That's next.
Giving little red outfits and cream hoods
and
by the
hoods.
Handmaid's Tale. Goodness.
Mr. Secretary, stick around.